Some stories are so big, so foundational, they feel like they've just always been there. But what if we could trace one of them right back to its start? That's what we're going to do. We're going to follow a single, powerful narrative thread, starting with an ancient promise made in a time of crisis, all the way to its dramatic, world-changing conclusion, and we're going to use the original texts as our guide.
So, here's the big question to keep in your head as we go through this. How does the story told in the Christian Gospels position itself as the answer to a question that was asked hundreds of years earlier? That connection, that's the key to the whole thing.
Okay, so our story kicks off at the very end of the Hebrew Bible, in a little book called Malachi. And let me tell you, it's not a happy scene. It describes a society that's in a deep spiritual crisis. These are people who have totally lost their way and are frankly in desperate need of a major course correction.
And the text gets really specific about the problems. The priests are offering blind and lame animals for sacrifice. Stuff they wouldn't even dream of giving to their own governor. The whole community is just full of betrayal. Worship isn't a joy. The people are literally saying, what a weariness this is. They've gotten so cynical, so fed up that they're openly challenging God, asking, so where's this God of judgment you keep talking about? The stage is absolutely set for something big to happen.
And then, bam! Right in the middle of all that cynicism and decay, you get this electrifying promise. A messenger is coming. He's going to prepare the way, and the Lord himself will suddenly, unexpectedly, come to his temple. This one verse is like a massive cliffhanger, a promise that would just hang in the air for centuries. It's the setup for everything, absolutely everything, that's about to follow.
All right, now fast forward about 400 years. After a long period of textual silence, the narrative fires right back up at the beginning of the Gospels. And it doesn't just start out of nowhere. It begins exactly where that ancient promise left off, presenting itself as the direct fulfillment of that prophecy.
So let's look at that promise from Malachi again. You got to remember that key phrase, prepare the way.
And here's the payoff. The Gospel of Matthew introduces this wild figure, John the Baptist, out in the wilderness, dressed in camel's hair. And what are his exact words? Prepare ye the way of the Lord. The text couldn't be more clear. It's explicitly casting John as that messenger from Malachi, the opening act for the main event.
So this is what John's whole job was leading up to. Jesus comes from Galilee to be baptized by him. And according to the text, the second he comes up out of the water, the heavens literally open. A spirit comes down like a dove, and a voice from heaven itself announces who he is. This isn't a quiet moment. This is his public anointing. This is the official start of the journey.
But his first real mission isn't public at all. Right away, he's led into the wilderness for 40 days to face these 3 huge tests of his purpose. First, turning stones to bread. Right? It's a test of provision. Will he use his power just to serve his own needs? Second, jumping from the temple. That's a test of validation. Will he force God's hand just to prove who he is? And finally, being offered all the kingdoms of the world. That's the ultimate test of power. Will he take a shortcut to get earthly authority? He says no to all 3, and with his purpose totally solidified, he comes out ready to start his ministry.
So coming out of the wilderness, Jesus starts teaching and performing these acts that just draw massive crowds. But the message he's delivering, it's not what anybody was expecting. It was revolutionary. It often turned the conventional wisdom of the day completely upside down.
This one line from his most famous sermon really captures the whole thing. In a world that was all about power, wealth, and status, his message was a blessing for the poor in spirit, the meek, those who mourn. He was basically laying out the blueprint for a totally new kind of kingdom, with a value system that was the polar opposite of the world's.
And he does this over and over again. He frames his teachings against the established law. He'll say, you have heard that it was said, and then quote something everyone knows, like an eye for an eye. But then he'll follow it up with, but I say to you, and introduce this far more radical internal standard. So it's not just about not committing murder anymore, it's about not even being angry in your heart. It's not about simple revenge, it's about turning the other cheek. He's saying his way is the ultimate fulfillment of what the law was always about in the first place.
And it wasn't just his words. They were backed up by actions that, according to the Gospels, showed this incredible authority. He doesn't just heal a few people, he heals all manner of sickness. He doesn't just give a nice speech, he tells a raging storm to be quiet, and it listens. These kinds of acts blew the crowds away, but they also started to seriously tick off the religious establishment, who saw him as a major threat to their power.
Well, you knew this was coming. This growing tension between Jesus' radical message and the established order, it was all heading for a breaking point. The story now takes a much darker turn, moving toward one final dramatic showdown.
in the heart of religious power, the city of Jerusalem. And this is the point of no return. He walks into the temple, the absolute center of Jewish worship and commerce, and he physically starts driving out the merchants and flipping over the money changers' tables. And by calling it a den of thieves, he isn't just yelling at a few vendors. He is issuing a direct, public challenge to the entire economic and religious system running the place. After this, the authorities weren't just annoyed, they were actively plotting to get rid of him.
From there, the end comes with this grim, unstoppable speed. He has one last meal with his disciples, where he actually tells them he's about to be betrayed. Then, one of his own inner circle, Judas, leads the authorities right to him. After a series of sham trials, he's handed over to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, who condemns him to die by crucifixion.
And at the 9th hour, nailed to the cross, he cries out with this haunting line. In the story, this is it. This is the hero's darkest moment. It's a cry of just profound anguish, representing the full weight of everything he's going through. Shortly after this, the text says he yielded up the ghost.
And so, it really seems like the story is over. His body is taken down by a disciple, wrapped in linen, and put in a brand new tomb carved out of solid rock. A giant stone is rolled over the entrance to seal it shut. By all appearances, the movement is finished. Its leader is dead and buried.
But the final chapter of the Gospel completely flips the script. What seemed to be a tragic, brutal ending is instead presented as a necessary step toward a brand new beginning. The story shifts from being about one man's life to becoming a mission for the entire world. On the morning of the third day, when two women, both named Mary, go to the tomb, they find that massive stone has been rolled away, and an angel is there who gives them this absolutely stunning message. This is the climax of the whole narrative, the incredible claim that death wasn't the end of the story.
According to the text, Jesus then shows up, alive, multiple times to his disciples, and seeing him completely transforms them. Remember, these are the guys who fled and hid in fear. But after this experience, they change from a scattered, terrified group into the bold leaders of a brand new movement.
And this is how the whole story wraps up. Not really with an ending, but with the launch. His final words aren't a goodbye, they're a commission, a command to take his teachings to everyone, to all nations. The entire narrative, from that ancient promise in Malachi all the way to this final command, is presented as one single, unbroken story. It's the story of a prophecy that became a passion and ultimately a mission that literally reshaped the world.